Hello, my friends. It's good to be back with you. And apologize, it's been so long. I I just really hadn't been in the mood to really share much lately. Um, I guess INFJs get that way. We just get moody sometimes, and at least I do. I don't feel like talking. Uh, I just want to kind of close myself off and do something different for a while. But anyway, I'm back, and one of the things I wanted to discuss today was this idea of grieving. And the reason this has been brought up here recently, I lost my mother in law, um, and very, very close to her as far as we always got along very well. She was, uh, a very godly woman. Uh, she'd be greatly missed. My children loved her to death. And it's took a toll on my wife, and it's made a it's been difficult. But I want to talk about grieving. I lost my brother back in near Christmas, about I don't know a week before Christmas. He passed away with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and some people would look at us and think, you people, you don't care, you don't grieve, you don't cry. Why? And this is really kind of a paradoxical thing because we seem to have a lot of empathy for people. We feel their grief, their emotions, their pain, but yet when I'm put in a situation where I'm faced with a death in the family, um, I've lost two brothers. In fact, I'm the only one of three that's left. I'm the oldest of three, and I'm the only son left. My mother's took this death quite hard, this latest one. So, death is a terrible thing to endure for a mother. And it's not easy for a brother, but some people might look at me and think, well, you go to these funerals, you don't really show a lot of emotion. You don't just, some people just really explode with a lot of tears and, oh, they just really, and for me, I feel rather calm, collected. I don't feel that's like I've got to just erupt in a lot of emotional display. Now I'm an emotional person, but I've thought about why don't I do that? Why do I not appear to most people as being so overwhelmed with grief? And I was really wondering about that. And then I got to really studying how my thought patterns have been, before the time of those deaths, and I realized, I had thought about death or their dying, they're leaving us for quite some time. I mean, my brain has processed it. My brother had ALS for at least 4.5 years. So I had 4.5 years to process that in my head and prepare my mind for it. And that's, there was days that I thought about it a lot. What's life going to be like when he's gone? What's going to happen? My mother-in-law was more of a sudden thing. She, got really bad in her colon, and her colon erupted, and she got septic, and she died. And all that process, was within about a week's time. So, we didn't really have a long time to prepare for her death. But, she was well in her 80s, and so she's been talking about dying ever since I met my wife. When I was courting her 27 years ago. So, these things are, my mind has been preparing for this day for quite some time. And so when the day comes, I may not show the same level of emotion that someone who doesn't look ahead, their mind does not contemplate future events, they don't look down the road. They live in the present, the here and now, and they're more concerned about what's going on today than what's going to happen tomorrow. Those kind of people usually will come to an event like that, and then all of a sudden you'll see an extremely emotional outburst. Oh, they're gone, they're gone, they're gone. But they hadn't thought about them being gone much before that initial shock. But whereas myself, and I want some of you INFJs to comment and give me some feedback here. Do you process grief like this? I mean, I've already processed a lot of this in my head way ahead of time, and so when the actual event takes place, I've already gotten a lot of that out of my system mentally, spiritually, and psychologically. So I don't really, face the same amount of grief, I guess, during the time of the event or even after the event. I haven't really found myself just falling apart. Um, and these are, I've been close to other people that have passed away. It's not just my brothers or my mother-in-law. I mean, I've had a lot of deaths either in family. I've had friends. Well, my best man at my wedding was a very close friend of mine. Died at 33 years old. So, he's been gone a long time. I'm 49 now. We were about the same age. But, these are deaths. I hated it. They were tragic. He had cancer and died young. So I had time to prepare myself. And like I said, how do you other INFJs deal with grief? Do you find yourself, you know, do people think you're unempathetic because you don't really just show these huge displays of emotion, maybe at a wedding or at a funeral rather, or maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe you do fall apart. And of course, I haven't lost somebody that's, like a child or a spouse or somebody extremely close. And I'm sure that will, have a lot of impact of bearing on my emotional status as well. Although even that, I remember years ago, my daughter, when she was just a baby, she was diagnosed with a portal vein thrombosis. That's a blood clot within the portal vein that goes into the liver. And she was extremely bad off. She had all the symptoms of someone dying with cirrhosis of the liver. And her stomach was full of fluid. She was losing blood in her esophagus. And all of these things, this massive bleeding was taking place, quite regularly. She was having to have transfusions. And in my mind, I thought, one day she might bust a vein and die. I mean, she could bleed to death easily, just like some that, experience problems with alcoholism. They'll vomit blood, the same thing. And I thought, she could pass away. How would I handle that? And my mind would process all the different scenarios of how I would handle that grief, that pain. And so, when that situation, I feel like when it would have happened, in fact, I was preparing my mind because I was a pastor then as well. Excuse me, I was preparing my mind to see if I was strong enough to actually perform the funeral. Could I even preach the funeral? It's my daughter, but would I be able to do that? And, that may sound creepy to some people, but there was a part of me that wanted to, if that occasion arose, and I wanted to be able to do that for my daughter. But so my mind would process all those scenarios, and what ifs, and could I, and would I, and should I? My brain thought about overthinking. We're classic overthinkers, so I thought about that. So, I haven't experienced, thank God she got help. We were able to find a surgeon that was able to correct the problem, and she's doing fantastic today. She's my INF daughter, by the way. She's doing great today. But, my mind wanted to work that all out way before the event happened. So does that sound familiar to some of you INFJs? Do some people maybe look at you and think, wow, you didn't care? That was your friend, your loved one, you're sick, whatever. You passed away, you don't even look like it's phased you, it has affected you. And maybe some people might judge you as being unempathetic or you didn't really care or didn't love them. I don't believe that's the case at all. It's just a strange way that we process grief, many times way out ahead of time before other people get there. So, leave me a comment and let me know, does that ring a bell with some of you? Have you found that similar situation in your grieving process? I'd like to know, and maybe I'm off my rocker, I don't know. But anyway, it's good talking and sharing with you today, and I hope you all have a blessed rest of the day. Take care.